Hi everybody, welcome back to my LinkedIn Lives. I'm Jasmine Navarro, certified wellbeing expert working with educational institutions and companies supporting their wellbeing challenges. As you know, every week I interview different experts, and today I'm super excited to be interviewing Nikki. Thank you so much for being here, Nikki.
Thank you for having me. Hi everybody, hope you're all well. You've got your coffee. I've always got my coffee.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Absolutely. How long have we got? I am very obviously Scottish, but I've been overseas for 17 years now.
Oh, wow.
I spent 7 years in Jakarta.
Did you really?
Yeah, 6 in Montenegro, and then the last 3.5 years in Dubai. I was previously a hairdresser for a long time. And having my son in 2017 was the catalyst that would actually change everything. It changed the trajectory of not only my personal life, but my professional life. Hence why we're sitting here and it doesn't have hairdresser up beside me. So yes. So now I'm supporting maternal mental health. That's primarily, not exclusively, but primarily, that is where my heart is the maternal mental health. So helping families transition into that amazing world of parenting.
Wow, I'm really looking forward to talking to you about this. I think you might be the first person I've had out of all the lives I've done on this topic. Very interesting. Yes. You are the first person, actually. Yeah. So you chose preparation in pregnancy.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what that means and what made you choose it for today?
Okay, so I chose that because I think we often focus on supporting families after the baby arrives. And the things that I share and raise awareness about, actually, if you can work through that and raise your awareness during pregnancy, it's a brilliant preparation, So everything that I do is very practical. It's, I call it simple, sustainable self-care.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah.
And it's for mums and dads, whether you are birth parents, whether you're foster, adoptive, anyone who's bringing a child into the house, the dynamics shift. So what I like to look at, because it's what I wish I had known, is how to self-care, and what that means. How do we understand how to self-care? It's not always a spa day. It's not always a nice bath. It's looking at daily. I often will say to people, okay, let's pretend you've got 3 accounts. So your first account for self-care would be your medical. So making sure that you keep on top of checking your mammograms, your smears, for the guys out there, your prostates, checking vitamin levels, hormone levels, all the things that can impact how we're feeling. So your medical, and I'm not a doctor, so I can't diagnose or delve into that, but that's the first account that I always refer to. The second one is the self-care in the sense of the lovely things, the spa days, the, night out, whatever that may be. But the last one is the one that I've really honed in on, and that's your daily self-care and how we address that and how we meet. I centre around the 6 human needs.
Okay. Tell us what they are. Yeah.
Our 6 human needs are certainty, variety, love and connection, significance, growth, and contribution.
Oh, is this from Anthony Robbins?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And this is the model that I use, because once I started understanding this, I changed my life. Really changed my life, because, so when I started this, the reason that I
what happened to you? Yeah, what happened to you?
So when I had my wee boy in 2017, I was 41 at that time. I had waited a long time to become a mum. And I believe that he was my answer to previous episodes of maybe anxiety or depression, whatever terminology you want to use. Any mental health challenges I had before, I always thought it's because I've not got what I really want in life, which is to be a mum.
Oh, really? Wow.
So when I got pregnant, I was like, we're winning, people, we're winning. And I really didn't anticipate postpartum depression, which I guess I should have because I had previous. But this is all about knowledge and awareness and education surrounding this topic, right?
Yes.
So, you know, when Archie was born, it wasn't consistent that I felt bad. It was a very up and down journey for the first 18 months, you know, which is quite a long time.
That's ages, yeah, to not be feeling good.
Yeah, and to not acknowledge it properly. And this is why, you know, as much as I do one-to-one sessions and I talk to families, I fully understand that not everyone is in a space where they're ready to talk. And that's why I created a digital resource to allow that, you know, discretion if that's what people need. They need something, but they don't really want to tell the world yet.
Yes.
Because we do have that narrative, don't we? We say, just reach out. And it's like, yeah, that's good. But how many people are suffering because they actually don't know how to reach out?
Or that's half the thing. If you reach out halfway there, you've already done 50% of the... So,
that was the first thing that turned it for me, you know, was when I finally did. And I spoke to a counsellor in the UK. I had a Zoom call. And I thought that I was just talking gobbledygook. You know, I came off that call and I thought, that woman will be handing in her resignation after this one. Like, I don't know what to do.
What were you saying to her? What were you saying? What, you just had enough?
Just, you know, I was just saying that I wasn't coping well, and she picked up, because that's what we do as outsiders. We have that perspective.
Yeah.
You know, that's what we do as coaches. We can tap in and read between the lines. That's what we're here for.
Yes.
And she picked up on something and she said, Nikki, why do you keep touching your head? And I think when I was talking, I kept doing this.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, because I feel like it's going to explode. And she said, okay. So the following day, she sent me this email and she just bullet points the things that, you know, I was very self-critical. And this is when I started to realise that there were things I needed to work on and probably had been needing to work on for a long time. But I had always went down the route of, you know, you go to the doctor and you get meds. I have no problem with medication. I don't believe there should be stigma around it. But I really believe it should go hand in hand with other therapies. I think that's where it's
not the only. Yeah.
Because that expectation, people are, you know, looking at that pill and going, that's going to fix everything. But without some awareness of your habits or what else is going on, it's not conclusive, right?
Yes. There's no quick fix. The answer's not in a pill. Yeah.
No, and I don't think there is a destination. I say that too, you know, that I'm not here to sell a solution and a destination, because I don't believe in that. You know, I still have my episodes. I think we all do in some form.
We're never like done, are we? There's always
it's life.
Overcome something and then something else.
You know, and it can be so many. Everything is about layers. You know, I'm always saying this. It's like having a jigsaw, and we're all so unique that what works for one doesn't necessarily work for someone else. You know, but I've found my formula, if you like. And that is what I'm doing. I'm just giving people these tools and awareness and saying, okay, I can work with you to figure out your formula. You don't have to duplicate mine. That doesn't mean that it'll work for you. But it's such an interesting journey, you know.
No, exactly. But like, so you're talking about the preparation. So from what I'm hearing you say, actually, you could probably work with lots of people, not just pregnant.
Yeah, I mean, I can generalize this. You know, I can come away from the maternal mental health, and it's a general. We all need it. We all need support.
Yeah.
When I started, you know, I had friends run through my online program for me, and one of them came back. They don't have kids. They're not parents, but they came back, and one of the things they said was, "You might have just saved our marriage."
Wow.
And I found that amazing, but all it was because there was, you know, that third party, which was the online program, instigating conversation. So I feel that most things come down to communication and expectation. So the same applies, when we are starting families.
Definitely.
I also
right.
think sometimes the narrative out there, when I was on Dr. Google, it would always talk about postpartum depression or postnatal depression.
And what's the difference? I don't even know the difference between postpartum and postnatal.
So postnatal depression is in reference usually to the baby, so perhaps if you're not bonding, but postpartum is when it's mainly with yourself.
Oh, okay. I wonder what the difference.
They're much the same. It's really hard to identify which is. But what I did know was that it wasn't that I didn't bond with my son. It wasn't that, I didn't feel about him. If anything, I thought it was the opposite. It was like I didn't know how to navigate how much I felt. I loved this
overwhelming. Was it overwhelming?
Yeah. And what it did was it activated that voice in my head saying, you're not good enough to do this. You're not good enough to be his mom. And even when I say it now, I still give myself shivers. He's 6 now, and I know that I'm obviously meant to be his mum. But at that time, and that's when I started realising this wasn't about him really at all. It was about me and not having faith in myself or not believing in myself enough, and then I realised I had to start doing some work.
Wow. So when you were pregnant, it was okay? You didn't experience any?
No, it was great. I was rocking it. I would wear little tight dresses with my big bump and I loved it. And I was lucky. I had a good pregnancy up until the end. At the end, I had gestational diabetes, which I think I maybe gave myself because I had some white chocolate cheesecake the night before my tests. And they were like, yeah, you've got gestational diabetes. So I had to change my diet for the last couple of weeks in my pregnancy.
Okay.
Some heartburn. But I mean, other than that, I was okay. The birth, the birth was, I mean, it's never a brilliant night, but there's nothing where I would say it was hugely traumatic. It is a trauma. You go through a lot. Your body goes through a lot. I ended up getting a cesarean section. Your body does amazing things, but it takes its toll.
I bet.
It's
no, it sounds. But so after you had the baby, then you started experiencing these like feelings of self-doubt, anxiety, did you say as well? Like what were the symptoms?
Yeah, I feel so. I often talk about this. I wrote an article about the difference between anxiety and depression, right? And this is just my way of describing it. In terms. Depression to me is like a low hum, like a toothache. It's just a consistent and it's a low vibration. Anxiety is when you're just in this hyper mode, and you're thinking about everything. So it's a bit of both. I had a bit of both.
God, yeah.
And in the beginning, it was, okay, this is because, I've just had him. It's hormonal.
Yes.
And I was in Scotland. At the time, we lived in Montenegro. I had returned to Scotland to deliver. And we kept saying, you know what, I'm tearful because I'm not in my own house. We kept fighting.
You make excuses,
I think I knew in my heart of hearts that I wasn't, but I'm emotional anyway. I am someone who wears their heart on their sleeve. I cry all the time. I'm an empath. So it wasn't surprising that I was tearful, But then as time went on and it wasn't going anywhere, we did go back to Montenegro and we had some great days. And then there were days where I think the word that I kept using was I felt disconnected. And I think it's a lot.
That's a real horrible feeling.
Yeah. You're not sleeping and, there's so many, again, it's these layers to it. But this is why I involved the dads as well, because I feel like there's so many resources and conversations around birth mums now. We do have way more information about this, right?
Yeah.
But when I reflect back and think about my husband, who was also a new parent, had this big shift, he was then taking the responsibility of the financial, looking after us whilst we were overseas. that was bearing a bit heavier on his shoulders. Then he was coming home to a wife who was sometimes pretty broken. And he didn't know how to fix that. Men like to fix things. They're hunter-gatherers, fix stuff. And how do you fix your broken wife? So that is why I'm very aware of bringing the dads in too, because these conversations are about, the human needs that I said earlier. You can, on the course, on the online guide, there are like personality quizzes, and one of them is to figure out what your driving human need is. So it's fun as well, it's
you
like
have to put the link in the post after.
Everything's on the website. When you go on the website, you can find all the things, but it's talking about things like your environment. It's talking about things like budgets. I was talking about this morning at an event. I feel like money has a real power over people unless they take that power and have the conversation and manage the expectations, because when you bring a baby in, things are going to change. Someone may not be working anymore. Your expenses are different. These little people are expensive. If you're overseas, you're looking at visas, medical. So and that's why I say preparation in pregnancy. It's like, anticipate these things, and then it won't be so overwhelming when it comes to the time, right? You've got yourself organised.
No, that sounds really good. So when would you start this preparation of pregnancy, and what is the preparation then? I know you've mentioned.
Yeah, so doing using the resource is good because it gives you pointers. It's got worksheets that you can either do digitally if you're a bit younger and trendier, or if you're old like me, you can print them off. And I think it's cathartic. I love writing. I'm always saying to people, get some sexy stationery and write it down. But I love and it's all about that, organising and managing your time. Things like meal plans, because I think like as a society, we're all pretty sick of going, what do you want for your dinner? And it's like breaking that down. It's looking at, expectations of family and friends, especially when the baby comes. Like, do you expect grandparents to come and support, or, are you going to have people to help with childcare? What about the housework? Can you, outsource that? What things can you outsource? And remembering that sometimes it's temporary. I think we all get sometimes stuck where we are. And it's, maybe you could use like a meal delivery service for the first 2 weeks. Then you don't have to continue.
Yeah, you're right.
But we think if we make that decision, you've made your bed, you have to lie in it. No, stop it. We can evolve and change and do what you need at a particular time.
That's very important.
And I talk about that as well, that evolving. And sometimes, social media is like a double-edged sword. It's amazing and it brings us information and resources, but it also brings comparison. And when you're a new mum and you physically went through these changes and mentally you're still adapting, and then people are talking about this, bouncing back to your pre-baby weight or bouncing back to your career. It can be a pressure. So it's being really honest with yourself, and it's evolving. And I talk about that, how to move with your identity. We're not supposed to stay the same. We're supposed to age, we're supposed to change. And after pregnancy, there's a lot of changes. What are
the biggest changes for you? Like, what were the biggest changes?
My feet are a size bigger than they were before I was pregnant.
No way.
Seriously, I used to be a UK 5, now I'm a UK 6, and that remained. And you have to learn to love yourself where you are. I've always been maybe between a size 10 and 12. I've went up and down slightly, but now I'm 47. I've had a child, I've had a cesarean section, so my body's playing it differently. And that negative voice in your head where we like to criticize ourselves all the time really has to be addressed. And when you start doing that and you start going with the new inner voice, things like getting rid of clothes. I would keep clothes and go, I'll get back into that. and I would periodically try them back on and just upset myself because they didn't fit anymore. And eventually I was like, what are you doing? This is like a form of torture. Get rid of them, get to the shops and get things that you feel comfortable in, you know?
Acceptance.
So, looking at these habits, and so many things changed. You know, if we were talking 15 years ago when I was like hairdressing days, I used to smoke like a chimney, drink like, you know, and I've got a massive conversation. We would need another call actually to talk about like how I feel about alcohol, and there's a lot of narrative around that. You know, the mummy wine club drives me insane.
Oh, really? What's that?
So it's like where they're like, you know, you just need to let your hair down. You're entitled to have a drink. And I'm like, if someone's already struggling, it's probably the worst thing you can do. But as a society, we've normalised alcohol so much. I'm Scottish. I'm expected to drink.
Yeah,
you know?
Well, same as me, being English. It's funny that you say that. Yeah, I remember when I was going through difficult times and people would say, have a drink. It's funny, I never wanted to have a drink when I'm not feeling great. That's the last thing I want, because I think that just spiral right down.
Well, it does. And you've got that awareness, but I think for a lot of people, it's like their little escape, and it's, you know, I just need to let loose. I just need to escape for a while. And it's like, you know, look into alternatives. There are so many alternatives, you know, and I'm like going through different things to bring into my own self-care. Things like light therapy. There's a company here that do it. It's super cool. You know,
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it's really cool. You sit in front of the light, and then you've got headphones on, and you close your eyes, but the light penetrates. So what it does is it activates your pineal gland, and that's where all the feel-good hormones come from. So I've only done it as a trial. It was like 3 minutes. And at the end, the lady who had organised the event said, what happened? And I said, I felt like I was in a kaleidoscope and there was lots of colours and shapes.
Right.
I said, but then all of a sudden it just cleared and it went purple. And she went, that's your pineal gland being activated, and the purple represents intuition.
Wow.
How cool is this? You know, so it's looking at doing stuff like that. Go to a comedy night. Go and watch a stand-up. Like, humour is a massive part of my ethos.
Oh, yeah. Me too. Oh, yeah. Humour. Number one.
Right? Everyone's very serious. Even these conversations, I'm like, we can have a laugh. We can talk about stuff and laugh as well. You know, it's...
Laughing is free. It's fun.
Yeah.
It takes the edge off and everything. You've got to, I think that's brilliant. I think you've got to be able to laugh at yourself. And whatever situation, normally, even darkest situations, there's normally a funny side to it.
Yeah, I don't know if that's because we're British. We've got that little
maybe. That's the thing, isn't it, about British people? It is all about humour.
Yeah.
There's always humour. That's how you connect, and that's something that I really, really love.
Yeah, and it's good, you know, when you're bringing a child into the equation. Like, you know, for couples, it can be a pressure. You know, when you become parents, it's a different dynamic to your relationship. So to laugh together and keep those connections, you know, it's important. I also talk about that, like date night, okay, but also honour yourself by having alone time. You know, Kevin and I, my husband and I, we have Kevin nights and Nikki nights where, you know, I might go to the mall, have some sushi, watch a movie, because we weren't always married. We didn't have a surgery when we got married. You know, I think it's really important to step back and have your own time and do things that you enjoy. And then you come back feeling refreshed and, you know.
How do you organise all of that? Because some people might say, oh, there's no time.
I've got my weekly schedule. We, again, back to the writing, you know, and I stick it on the fridge. So we'll write up like whatever's going on. And as well as writing, you know, the obligations and the important stuff, but we prioritise us as the important stuff.
Amazing.
Whereas people often put that as, you know, if there's time, you've got to make that time. Otherwise, there never will be. We could all be busy all the time.
You're right. I love that. You do that together, the schedule?
We usually on a Sunday, if you came into my house now, on my fridge, there's a weekly schedule and there's the weekly meal plan, which again, you know, helps with overwhelm, helps you make better decisions about your eating. Because when you've got a new baby and you're tired, you're not thinking about cooking. So in preparation, when you're pregnant, make some soups, ask friends or family as gifts to make you some stew to put in the freezer so that you're still getting the nutritions, because with the best will in the world, you don't. I lived on bananas and biscuits at the beginning because it was just something you could grab. And again, that feeds back into what we spoke about earlier with budgets, because you then don't waste so much money.
Exactly. When you're tired and hungry, and stressed, you'll get anything, won't you?
You like pizza. Let's order pizza again. Then you feel, you know, you don't feel so good about yourself because you're not eating healthily. So it all ties in. You know, I could talk about it for hours, honestly, Jasmine. You need to beam me off. But having that awareness and going into these different areas can really, it just boosts you, you know. And when you're showing up as your best self, then you're obviously going to be happier with your parenting and within your relationships. If you're back at work, you know, you need clarity when you want to be productive. So it impacts all of these things.
No, exactly. No, brilliant tips. I love the list, the weekly schedule. I think that's amazing. So what would you, to sum it all up then, what would you say if somebody's just got pregnant?
I would say jump on a call with me. I always offer a free consultation. So jump on Zoom, have a coffee, and we can chat, and I can take them through, you know, these are practical things, because when you're pregnant, you will be shown how to change the baby. There'll be information about how to feed, you know, whether you're breastfeeding or formula, you'll get all this education and information. For me, I'm like, I can't teach you that, but I can pull you towards the awareness of how you're going to self-care. And once you're showing up as the parent you want to be, it does change everything. You know, it changes your reactions. I always use this story. Archie could come to me and say, Mum, I'm hungry, because he's always hungry. And I could say, oh, what do you want now? And I could get him some fruit, and we could be jovial and everything's cool. He can come the next day and say, Mum, I'm hungry. And I can be like, Archie, I'm really busy just now. Just give me a moment. He's presented the same behaviour, the same data. So the reaction is different. So why is the reaction different? Well, obviously, what's going on with me. So I had to start practicing, you know, when I felt agitated, because we're tired and we're human.
Yes.
You know, I used to put a thing on my wrist and give it a little, okay, take a beat just before you react. And it can change how the rest of that morning or afternoon plays out, right? Because if you're reactive, they get upset, you feel guilty, they're in tears, you're in tears. But that can be, you know, not avoided every time. Again, we're human, you know.
Yes.
But
that's brilliant. Having something to remind you, like some people stop, don't they? They say what the power of the pause, just stopping before you respond.
Yeah.
And how many times have I been like, thank you that I didn't react that moment. Yeah. Sometimes I have reacted emotionally and completely regretted it.
But when you do, you know, I always and have always done this, where if I have been reactive, you know, or my behaviour has been taken out on Archie, then I will speak to him and I'll apologise to him, even when he was just little, you know, and I would say, I am so sorry, you know, and we would have a hug. And once he obviously could talk, and I think that's important as well, because they model us, right?
Exactly.
So it's understanding. I think there's a lot of pressure that we're all supposed to be perfect and we're all aiming to be happier and more fulfilled. And I'm not so good with that. I'm about being realistic. So I don't sugarcoat and I don't scaremonger. I'm like, can we call it as it is? We're all human. We're all reactive. None of us are perfect. But how are we dealing with it? What can we do to be better? You know?
Amazing. No, I love that. Hi, Kiara. Super discussion and so on point.
Hi,
Kira, sorry.
You're
sorry. No, thank you. And thank you everybody for watching. Please, if you have any comments or questions, please put them on in the post, and Nikki or myself will get back to you. And if you want to message Nikki directly, please do. Nikki, please, can you tell us how to find you? And also, please put
everywhere as the Scottish Soul Sister. So if you Google it, the website will come up. If you're on Instagram, if you're on Facebook, I am there as the Scottish Soul Sister.
Can you post all of the links on the post anyway, so people can just click on it easily?
Yes, of course.
And is there anything else you want to say before we go?
I don't think so. Just thank you so much for having me. This is, this is what I do now. I'm just advocating for mental health. It's my wee heart and soul. And in a way, it feels like this is what I should always have been doing. So I love it. And I just want to help people. So please get in touch if you do have any questions or concerns, and let's get a chat.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Nikki. Yes, please do contact Nikki for that consultation. It's free. You have nothing to lose. And Nikki knows exactly what she's talking about, and I'm sure she can help you. Thank you so much, Nikki. And thank you, everybody, and see you next week.
Thank you. Take care.